Hi there, this is Shauna from the Foil Fox, and I'm so excited that I get to finally introduce the BetterPress, which is a letterpress system from Spellbinders. You've probably heard a lot about it. We're going to do an unboxing of it, and that's just what it does. It makes a very deep impression, just like letterpress. And this, we're going to go through all the different things. This lists all the different things that are in the box, and you can see a picture of it as well. But let's get it open and we can really get an idea of what's inside. It's a very simple system to use, but very, very effective. So to start out, it has, as you can see, there's some paper there. There's tape and there's ink. And there's one plate for you to use, which makes this wonderful floral array. And then here's an instruction booklet. It is very simple, so you can see the instruction booklet is very small. So there's not much to learn about it, just a few do's and don'ts and a few little tips that we'll go over. And then we take out this, there's some shims there, but we'll take out the cardboard bit. That's just for shipping. And then there's a protective coating on this. And I have to stop a minute. If you hear my cats complaining, it's because it's in the morning and they complain with each other in the morning often. So just ignore them. Here are the shims. And you see, very thin. These are plastic and they're quite durable. We'll show you how to use those. Here's the plate again. And then you get a paper pack. And I'll show you a picture of what's in that paper pack in a minute. And then there's the tape. I use this tape a lot in everything that I do in paper crafting. It's the best ever crafting tape by Spellbinders. And then now we'll get to that where you see the gray platform, and that is called a chase. Now that is a letterpress term. I've actually had an antique letterpress machine for many years, but this one is just modernized it. Now I pulled off that protective coating onto the plastic. This is called, what I have in my hand right now is the platen. And you can see it's got magnets on it, and then it's got these little springy dudes there in the corners. And that helps keep it up off the paper, until you're ready to put it through your die cutting machine. Just quickly, these are the 3 colors that are in that paper pack you get. So you get the gray and the bisque and the porcelain. Then we're just going to run through some other wonderful plates that you can get. This is butterfly, and you can see all these butterflies, and they also have the cutting dies. Here's a wonderful frame, and it has the sentiment thank you, and it cuts out that center part for you. Some sentiments, and again, all the cutting dies. So this is complete. You get the plates and the cutting dies. This is very intricate and it is very beautiful. And then it does have a something you can cut out and put a sentiment on. And then this is a intricate border. As you can see, it's a wonderful border, and then has a sentiment, and you can cut out the center. And this is Make a Wish. Now this one's split in 2, so you can use it in lots of different ways, so you have a lot of versatility. And here's a floral spray. And there are a few of these that are just lovely. Look at the detail on that. And here is another one that's kind of upside down. It looks like, sorry. And then note, this is kind of go back to an old-timey note. And then hello, very script, stylized, beautiful. And then it has this happy birthday. And then the thanks, a big thanks. This would be great to just make some really great thank you cards, a whole set of them. And then here are some sentiment strips, and you can just print the whole thing and cut out the whole thing all at once, which really makes it great because then you have lots of them to choose from. Here's another script, smaller sentiment set. And this one has those 3 the scissors, the hummingbird, and the hand. And those are kind of a throwback to the 1800s, and they're really cool. I think they'd make a great note card set, and then there was another sentiment set. Then there's these inks. Now there is another set of inks that they are just now releasing, and those will be coming extreme very soon. You can actually pre-order those on our website. And here is the porcelain paper that's 8.5 by 11, or you can get it in the A2. Now these are cotton. That's 100% rag. That's what makes them different. And these are the inks. These are the 4 colors. There are 4 others. Those are coming out very soon in the next week or so. And then we have the re-inkers for these. You will want to have the re-inkers because you will use the ink a little bit more. It takes a little bit more. And the archival ink cleaner. You can use alcohol. But it works best with it as long as it's 90% or above alcohol. But the archival ink cleaner works best. Now I have this plate. I've positioned it for an A2. You can see the grid there is all on there, and you can see that the name BetterPress is at the bottom. Now I turn it over so the BetterPress name at the bottom is backward, and that's where we're going to put our paper on here. I'm going to just use tape right in the corners. I'm going to just position it. It makes it so easy because it has all these grids out there for you, and you don't have to have any guesswork in trying to position it. They've thought of everything with this. You see this paper. This one I'm using is the gray. It's 118 pound. There's also a double thick, which is 220 pound, which we'll have shortly as well. Here's the ink. This ink is specially formulated. It's formulated for them by Ranger. It's specially formulated for Spellbinders. It is oil based. This is to give a really good saturation of ink without over inking it, because even in letterpress, when you have a letterpress system, a big letterpress system, antique one like I have, you have to be really careful not to over ink and not under ink, and that's one of the real secrets. But this makes it hard to under ink it or over ink it. You probably have more of a chance of under inking than over inking, but still keep that in mind. Now I'm just wiping this off. I really wouldn't need to have, because it would have not transferred onto my paper, because these plates are very, very thick. But I just felt I had to be pristine about it. And I just have my dispenser there that I use to dispense my ink cleaner. And see how the BetterPress is now upright, because we're going to put the paper up onto that plate. Now I don't have to mind how it just magnetically snaps on, because if you remember, there's little springs on there, and when I go through the die cutting machine, those little springs will depress, and it allows contact of the plate to the paper. But then it's going to spring back once it goes through the die cutting machine. And so I don't have to worry about it getting smudgy in other areas. It's very ingenious how this is done. They've been working on this, I understand, for like 7 or 8 years, and they finally perfected it. There's so many things to perfect in this, is how the system works, how the inks work, formulating them. So here is the impression. You can see what a beautiful impression it is. It is a very luxurious feel. And you know, one of the things about this cotton paper, again, in the letterpress world, they might call it, if you hear the term rag content or 100% rag, that means it's all cotton. These papers that they include with it is all cotton. And it's either the 110 or they have the double thick at 220. Now, you can use your own papers, your cardstock papers and all that. Don't think that you always have to have the cotton. But if you want the deepest impression and the best result, then this is going to give it to you. But you're still going to have a great result if you use regular cardstock. And I'll do a video later on demonstrating that. But just make sure it's like 110 and more. This paper, when it has all that cotton in it, it has great stretch. Now these shims, remember I showed you these shims? I have all 3 of them. I'm going to just tuck them in underneath this magnetic plate and put it back. Now see how that my plate didn't move at all, did it? It's got a magnet on there that is really, really strong. I'm going to re-ink because that's one of the tips. Be sure that you re-ink for each impression so you get a good impression. It's just like when you're stamping, doing regular stamping, that you stamp it, and then if you didn't re-ink it, you get a lighter secondary stamp off of that. So if for a good impression and get it nice and deep, then go for re-inking it. Now I put another sheet of paper in there. I still have the gray. Remember, it comes with the gray bisque and porcelain, and but I chose the gray again. And I have that. Let's bring my die cutting machine. The die cutting machines, again, I'm going to recap. This one's a Platinum 6, but it can be the Platinum. It can be Big Shot, Shot Plus, or Switch, or probably most any of them. But those, they do know that they give a really great result. And I'm just going to pull this out. It takes no effort to pull it out. Going to set this aside. Now remember, I have the shims in here. And so I see how deep that is? That's what caused it to go deeper into the paper. And see, here is the first one we did with no shims. And you can see it's a little bit lighter, even with the same ink on it. It's just because this went in deeper. But one of the things to really keep in mind is how crisp the impression is. It is so crisp, and it's really indented in there. Hard to see on camera, but it really is, and it's beautiful. And I love the feel of the cotton paper, always have. So here you can see the two different ones. Now I'm going to take my ink cleaner again. Again, you can use 90% or above alcohol to clean it, but the ink cleaner is a little bit more effective, but they both work. Now, the thing is about this platen, you'll never get that ink off again where the gray is. You can take some of it off, but it's always going to be marred. So if you like everything really fastidious, you're going to have to get past the fact that that ink you're going to have ink on this, and it's not going to come all the way off. And that's kind of the way it is. It's kind of like cutting plates where they get all marred and scratched up. So here you can see the really deep depth of this plate. And look at how stout they are. They're thicker and they're stout. So, and you can see the detail you can get. You can get more detail because it's crisp. It doesn't blur at all. You think you're not getting blurring with some of your stamping, but there is if you look at it under magnification, and it does show in your final product. Now, I'm going to color these in 3 different ways. There's 3 flowers here. I'm going to start out by coloring this first flower with Copic markers, and then another flower in watercolor, and another one in colored pencil, and show you. I'm going to do it all on the same one, so that I challenge you to see what you think the differences are, and you can kind of report back to me what you think, and if you think that there's a big difference between the flowers, and if which one you prefer. Now, I've just chosen some random colors here. I wasn't concerned about that. It was just mainly just to demonstrate the coloring of it. And now I'm going to move on to the watercolor. For the watercolors, I'm just going really simple. I'm going to use some Distress inks. It doesn't matter which one I'm using, but I think I'm using here picked raspberry, saltwater taffy, and a little bit of festive berry. And I'm just going to wet my brush and start adding in some of this color. Now, I noticed this behaves very much like watercolor paper because, watercolor paper has a lot of cotton in it as well. It does absorb, and, that's one of the reasons why, watercolors do dry back lighter. This is going to dry back lighter too. And you might find you need to use a tiny bit more color. This is my very first example that I have tried because I just got the BetterPress, and I don't know that it really did soak in that much. And if I added more color, but I might have, but I just added the more color. It was easy to overcome. And I am just adding in these colors just to show you what this is like with the watercolor. And you can see it's going on beautifully. And it's not bleeding outside the area. It's behaving very much like watercolor paper. Now, I didn't do some alcohol marker leaves, so I thought I'd just go in and do those just to give you, so we have a good comparison before we jump into the colored pencil. So here I'm going to do some colored pencil. Again, I just chose some colors randomly just to see how they'll go on. I am going to be using a blending stump just to blend out the colors a little bit. These are watercolor pencils, and I could have used a brush, but I didn't want to because I didn't want it to become like watercolor. I'm going to just use these just as colored pencils. And you see, they just go on beautifully as well. And I have to tell you, for me, I had a really hard time deciding if they were which one was which. If I didn't know, I probably would have had a little bit of a problem. Now, a few things to run through just while you're watching this coloring is you can use other inks other than the inks. The inks they form specially formulated are best because they are specially formulated for this. But you can use your dye inks or your archival inks, but do not use pigment inks. Those give you a very blurry look to it, and you don't want to have your image be blurry. And see how the Copic marker bled through like you would expect, but no warping. You see that with I was using water, no warping, no anything. It behaves beautifully. Just love that. I'm going to mount this onto a base just and make it into a card just so that you can see. Here it is. And you can get, I'm going to have this, you can look at the detail really, really closely, and maybe you can really get into that. And then I'm going to remember that the thicker the paper, the better. These are just some little hints to keep that going, to have a good result with this. And then know that we saw it with the watercolor and the pencils and the Copic markers, and you can choose other mediums if you'd like. And you can and remember, there's all of those wonderful plates that you can buy that go with this. Now, some people have asked if it will work with your glimmer machine. Um, these plates have a special coating to them, and they don't know if it'll stand up to the hot foiling technique. Right now, they're saying that it's looking good, but they want to do more testing and to make sure that the plates aren't going to get damaged. Because, like I say, these have very, very special coating to them to have the ink adhere perfectly and to have a deep, deep impression. Then here are some samples that Spellbinders have done. You can really get a close idea on all the different things you can do and how they use lots of colors. And remember, these sets come with a lot of them, or most of them, I think all of them come with some cutting dies, so you can cut out like those butterflies. You can cut out all of those different butterflies. There's so many ways that you can use these. I have to say, I am very impressed. I have an antique letterpress, and I still love it, but this is pretty amazing, I have to say, and it makes it super, super easy. And I think that the price that they chose of $79.99 is a really, really good one. Now, if you purchase through us, in the U.S., you will have free shipping, and so then we're going to get into a few do's and don'ts. Some things that we have covered before, but we'll just go through it. Is keep it clean and detailed. That means the cleaner that you keep it, the more detailed it is, and that is a good thing. And so use your ink cleaner or your alcohol. Always re-ink for a best impression. And then choose the right materials, and that really is where you want to use that thicker cardstock. Your best result is with a cotton card panel. This is all that letterpress people use, but you can use other paper. But I would recommend 100 pound or greater, so your thicker cardstocks. You can try it with your lighter ones, and you just won't get that deep impression because there's just not enough paper there. And then stay away from pigment inks. They make your image blurry, and you don't want that. And when you run it through, after, if you want to cut something out and you run this cotton paper through, do use pristine cutting plates, not the ones that are scratched up and bent like mine usually are, when you go to cut out that die, because it will transfer onto the paper because it's a little bit thicker. And then have some tweezers and some craft tape on hand, just to make it a little bit easier. The craft tape, just taping it right into that little corners, really holds it very well, and tweezers sometimes just make it easier to peel it off, but it is certainly not necessary. And that kind of concludes this introduction. I am going to be doing more videos with this and more experimentation. But for right now, let's review the BetterPress system. You can go check it out on our website. There's a link down below. There's a complete supply list of everything that we are offering that's listed there too. And there's all the assorted plates and the inks and papers. Remember that the second grouping of colors is coming soon. You can pre-order those. So I think that's kind of wraps it up for us. I want to thank you so much for joining us. If you enjoyed the video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, we'd love it if you would. Thanks again, and we will see you next time. Bye.